Okay, right. So recording has started. Uh, okay. Well, welcome. Thanks for coming. I was hoping a few more people would start showing up to these because Max is coming right along, and there was another one or two. Chris sent his regrets. Chris Leonard said he had a conflict today and couldn't make it, but uh, let's see. And Guyan has been talking on the M1D list, but I guess didn't make it today. Anyway, let's see. So I've got these notes with a couple of thoughts I wanted to go over. Anything else anybody thinks I should speak to or questions?
Um, is there I haven't done anything with the multicast security document anytime recently. What since I since I'm not going to be in Vienna and I'm on vacation, so I'm not really going to be attending any working group sessions except for my own. Is there anything specific that you want me to do prior to 113?
Actually, just is it expiring? I don't even remember.
I published the new
Oh, you
version when I
okay?
got the expiry warning.
Okay.
So
Um, I think just keeping it alive is probably enough for now.
okay.
I do think so. So I've started that quick multicast document. It's like barely. It has an abstract that I think might be okay-ish with just a few more revs, uh, and then the intro that is probably too rambly to stick. And one and basically all that's in there yet is the pointer to that security considerations doc, plus the outline, which is kind of roughly based on the multipath quick,
Mhm.
uh, kind of trying to cover roughly what they're trying to cover and adapt it to what we're going to need for the multicast part. I think it's going to wind up being a fairly long document in the end. There's a lot of sections and a few of them are going to be a bit complicated. Um, but um, but I have kind of a start at getting somewhere there. I think the target is to have something reasonable to present in Philadelphia. Uh,
I mean,
um,
and yeah, barring anything crazy, I will be there in Philadelphia.
yeah,
So
barring anything crazy, I was going to be there for Vienna too, but unfortunately, crazy is
craziness
yeah,
happened.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm hopeful that can go somewhere. I think that there's a lot of advantages. I've been talking with a few potential collaborators. I don't have a an okay from them yet uh, to publicly say exactly who they are, but you know, there's a few reasonable guesses, and you might be right. The uh,
Oh, so you're saying Ecker's all in now? Not just kidding.
that would be awesome, but no, no. The no, Acker is not one of them yet. So, uh, but yeah, we're this approach I think has a lot to recommend it, namely that it's invisible to the application, which is actually a big advantage. I think this is has a lot of potential to get somewhere, assuming we can kind of clear the security hurdles appropriately. And I think the security considerations doc is, uh, although we didn't get a lot of engagement on that, I do think it's going to be critical for having it all written down, like what we're aiming to achieve here, and being able to compare that against you know, what's reasonable and what the quick proposal actually does.
Is
Um,
this is are we starting with or from or is this Lucas's doc?
this is not Lucas's doc. This kind of takes things down a layer. So Lucas's doc
Okay.
was working at the application layer on H3, and it was so the way that it was going to do uh, the so it used alt service and H3 push, um, and said that these are required elements, and had a sort of um, cross layer. Uh, the alt service sort of gave information about the multicast stuff, and there was no authentication at the transport layer. It was only at the app layer with the H3 objects that were transported. So that one was aimed only at segment transfer. Um, so the new approach is operating in the quick transport layer instead. So it'll be using quick frames to do the server to client advertisement that there's a separate multicast stream. It'll use quick handshaking instead of the I think it was alt service and just sort of optional for the client to use it, um, in terms of like how the client would decide whether to attempt a multicast stream join in Lucas's doc. Um, and so there's some key differences here, uh, and the idea is that it's basically it's almost like an alternative path uh, for um, for a for a generic server to client data stream. So it could carry H3 push, but it can also carry datagrams. It can also carry anything that's appropriate for.
Okay, so this is why you were making why you pulled the outline from multipath, because
Yes,
it's really just a one-way alternative path is the way you're thinking about it.
that's what I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So it's not, and it's so it is coupled to the individual unicast streams, right? And those individual unicast streams, I think our intent is to start with just like it's going to do multipath hacking on the unicast path. That's and just do the just like multipath does it in the multiple packet number space mode. And
Okay,
it's
that's
going to
cool, because then the if you don't act, you'll get a unicast retransmit effectively.
Yes, I think so. I think that's the
I
idea.
mean, this sounds like the intent anyway.
That's
Um,
the yeah yeah
that
that's what
simplifies
I'm
a lot of
aiming
things,
to.
because then you don't have to go back and make a request at the application layer for missing data. It'll just show up.
That's right. And so and in the case of datagrams, the server will know that I missed it, but it won't have to retransmit because that's the way datagrams work in quick. So just reusing all that uh, is the intended operation here. So there will be so I think there are several unique um, things about this architecture that are going to need defining in this document. That's why I
Well,
think it's
one
going to be a
is
long.
one that I can think of immediately is that the multicast source. So let's say you've got a video stream, right? So the multicast source is not necessarily going to be the CDN node that you're connected to for unicast, for the unicast traffic, right? So they're somehow going to have to share state. CDN nodes are going to need to have access to the same stream to the same stream of quick packets, right? The same sequence numbers, etc.
Correct.
Um, okay. Yeah, that seems like a complicated problem.
So it's complicated operationally a little bit, and we'll need to have probably a demo server that can do that kind of fan out. Um, where there's an upstream source that's providing the stream of probably the whole stream of packets, but maybe in some cases it can just send the authentication, the packet hashes that we'll be using for because the packet hashes will be coming on the main quick stream in a sequence of frames for that. um, until we once again, I think we can eventually transition to doing the other thing in the um, uh, the one that you wrote about. What was it called?
Women
The
Alta.
Yeah, Alta. I
Okay.
think we can eventually transition the authentication stream to use Alta. Um, but we're going to start with just there's an authentication stream that's packet hashes coming in the unicast channel, and
Yeah,
we'll
that
need
still
a
gets you several orders of magnitude reduction in
yeah.
unicast
It's about
traffic. So,
it's about 30x.
all right, two
Uh,
orders.
yeah. So we'll need well, it's fair to say several in binary. That's five, right? But yeah. Um, anyway,
If you count
sorry.
in a small enough base, right, everything looks big. So
30x is not to be sneezed at. Um, so uh, so that's the plan. Um, it would be awesome if I could get something running by Philly in July. I don't know if that's going to happen, but that would be a stretch goal, I would say. And the main goal here would be to just have the doc written with enough to be talked about. Um, but I think it would increase the interest, um, perhaps to the point that somebody might bother to read it if we have an implementation too. Um, so so that's the intent with that thing. I think that's um, the main thrust of what we're gonna try to make happen this time. Uh, I think that's the best path anybody has suggested or thought of, and several people seem to think that it's got some potential. Um, so yeah, Ecker will still think it's a bad idea, I'm afraid. So we'll still have to have that discussion that they didn't want to have just because nobody's interested. If we can get people interested, um, but uh, yeah, and on that front, Lenny offered to have Mbond make a statement or a request or something. I think it might make sense for Mbond to officially request Quick to consider this or something. I'm not sure whether we should do that in Vienna or just in Philadelphia as a precursor there. But yeah, we need to um, the point. I think the way to phrase that is going to be like um, you know it's critical to the deployment, like to the incentive structure for making multicast successful to to be able to offload HTTP um, with multicast. And we have a proposal that is aiming to do this. We will at that point have a proposal aiming to do this, and therefore please do give this due consideration. Like, just I don't know how that's going to land, but
So I wonder. So I don't know. You said you don't. You've been talking with some people, but you're not at liberty yet to reveal who they are. But I'm just wondering if any of those people are kind of big wigs from the development of Quick, and if not, if it makes sense to try and find some of those folks and get them, to suss out their interest level, even if they have no interest specifically in multicast, they do probably still have interest in Quick,
yeah,
right? So I'm thinking of all the people who were sitting at the table at uh, people who attended Quick interims, stuff like that, right? I'm thinking
yeah.
people from Google, like Ian and
So
Miria, Brian.
yeah, um, I wouldn't say. Uh, Sure. That's a good idea, and I think it's going to take having a sane doc to get them to look at it, but I do hope at least like someone like Martin will actually read it and give some feedback. His feedback during Sec Dispatch was we need a proposal before we can really talk about this in
Mhm.
the with the security considerations. So I feel like I'm essentially directly following up on what he said.
Yeah.
I
Well, I
think
mean,
somebody
yeah,
else
his
quote for me.
feedback at least was not like to completely shit on it. So,
Uh, yeah. Well, I don't think anybody quite did that. They just said that nobody's interested, so we shouldn't bother. I guess that's shitting on it. Anyway. Um, but yeah, having a proposal I think goes a long way toward addressing that at least. But yeah, it's hard to get just the level of engagement there. The other thing I would like to do is have it in a state where we could start using it. If we just roll stuff out that's making use of it, that will increase interest as well. Um, and so that's another reason I would love to have a prototype running. Um, and so I'll likely try to take a look at that um, and see what we can do because it doesn't have to be in the browser to start using it. Um, so just an app that integrates this. So I'm gonna if that's in shape where we can use it on the kind of timeline where we're trying to roll something out, I will make an attempt to make use of it because I think that will also increase the security properties relative to just sort of not worrying about it, which I think is going to be the instinct um, for a lot of the people that want to just use that want to that want multicast to work but don't care about quick and browser integration, um, which we have some of. And it's the progress is incredibly slow, but non-zero and positive. Um, uh, let's see. Anyway, that's that status. What was the other? Yeah, LibMCRX. I was happy about the progress on that. Um, yeah, I guess that's most of the report I wanted to cover is just the sort of gradual solidification of the strategy on how to get into the browser. Um, the feedback on the browser side was, well, like from web transport, for example, was that, well, we need this solved at the quick layer. Um, and so solving it at the quick layer seems like in line with that. And the feedback from the security people was, well, we need a proposal. So it seems like it solves both of these. Still no guarantee that it'll go anywhere, but 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 it is responsive to those points of feedback. So I guess, yeah, anything else we should talk about in more detail?
I don't have anything at the moment. Um, I mainly, like if there's anything you want from me prior to 113, just let me know. Um,
Do you want me to pull you in on the customers that might use multicast when we have these meetings and stuff? Do you want all the context on that, or
yeah,
you're
that would be
pretty
helpful.
okay? You're I know you must be pretty busy, but yeah, when we have, I think we're trying to arrange a couple of meetings as follow up next steps. I think some of them got pushed back. The customers that are doing this have many problems, and so they have lots of different things they're trying to juggle. But
Yeah, I'm reminded of that XKCD where the one about regular expressions, right? Well, now you have an
yeah,
additional problem. They're trying to solve their problems with multicast. They That might not be the right way to go. I'm just saying.
there are. there are many challenges, and there are many, yeah, there are pros and cons for sure, but the pros are pretty good. So just getting that traction, and in conjunction with the ISPs in particular.
Remember the John Goodman's line from Big Lebowski, like our fucking problems are solved. It's like, nope. Anyway,
Um, okay, then I guess that's it. Mostly my next steps here are just to flesh out that document by Philadelphia and to do the actual updates on the rest of the stuff for M1D to keep things alive. Um, I think all four of my drafts are currently expired, so I need to refresh them.
yeah, and my regrets for missing 113, but I have had this vacation planned for a year, and it is an attempt to redo a vacation that got rudely interrupted by COVID the year before, and it just happens to be that the only week my girlfriend has off is the week of 113. So, oh well.
All right, well, um, yeah, in terms of this project, I'm not expecting much motion during 113. Just sort of holding steady and setting up for the 114 uh, uh, hopes. Yes. Um, so you know, uh, outside that, I think my main focus really, like the one that takes priority over any of the standards work, is getting some deployment and that's more like of an internal conversation with our customers right now. So um,
So for just one thing regarding 114, are you aiming for like a barb off or something at 114 or
um, I was I was thinking a quick presentation during
okay,
114 would be
okay,
the right venue.
okay.
Um, and also a you know a recap of that in M1D to keep people informed. Um, but yeah, I was gonna see if you know I'm not sure. Um, I know Quick has been very busy from time to time, but now they've got the main drafts published. I think they do have several things they're trying to accomplish, including they just adopted the multipath, of course, and that's going to need a bunch of discussion, I bet. And they're trying to get out the new drafts for the version negotiation. I think they want to have a V2 just to prove out the version negotiation, if I understood correctly. So I'm probably going to have to catch up on the quick, um, you know, like watch the quick meeting videos and stuff. I know they do a lot of like just going through the issues list during the during the session. So just I'm not sure you're muted, I think.
Yeah, yeah, they're real working sessions, right?
Yeah,
They don't screw around.
yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna have to do some catching up on like how best to engage with quick. I'm hopeful that's gonna get easier when things are in person again. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna have to I don't know make that. I haven't been going to any of the quick sessions really. I've watched them from time to time. Um,
Yeah, same. I stopped attending them a few years back.
yeah, but now that we have a quick proposal, I'm gonna have to fit into that workflow somehow if it's gonna go anywhere. So
Yep.
um, yeah, so I don't know how busy they are and whether I'll be able to get a slot, but I'll try and give them some early warning and some heads up and have it credible enough. Maybe even a round of feedback um, before 114 if I can get it. but we'll see. On the plus side, if this happens, then it might not need any browser APIs, or it might only need something in terms of like yes or no, this is okay, or some such, right?
Mhm.
Um, so because it might be that we can do it just inside
Quick engine. Yeah.
the quick engine, and so web transport, for example, can it can look like just doing web transport datagrams, and you get what you get, and the app doesn't know or care that it came through multicast. Um, and so I think that would be like the other annoying thing is that I know Chrome took out the server push because it had like an internal cache that was complex or something. So the that is one of the things that you can reasonably do um, with the with a sort of one-way stream. Um, and so if you don't have the server push implementation anymore, I might have to like bring it back um, or do something like that if datagrams is not enough.
Mm.
Um, so and it might not be. I think I think what like Lucas's draft was done kind of the way that BBC wanted to do it, as I understood it, and that was a server push based architecture where it's just you do a server push and now the clients all have your segment and off they go. So
Yeah, I feel like there's been a lot of like server push is definitely out of fashion, and it's gonna it. I'm not sure how open people are going to be to reviving it, but maybe if there's a really compelling use case. I mean, I think
so
it was the complexity and the fact that people weren't really using it that led the HTTP working group and then Quick to be like, why do we have this thing?
yeah
So I think Martin Thompson put together a document, uh, basically explaining. It was either Martin or Ben, I can't remember. Put together a document explaining what the limitations of server push were, and as justification for effectively axing it. So it might be worth reviewing that. I'll see if I can find it.
yeah thanks. If you could send that to the list or put it in the notes maybe. Um, yeah, that would be helpful. This has been what's his last name? S. The one from Google.
Yeah, yeah. I
Shit.
can't
Yeah.
remember his last name. It'll occur to me 5 minutes after the meeting ends.
Yep. I'm pretty sure I'll have the same. Um, okay. Um, yeah, good. That'll be helpful. Um, the on the plus side, like with datagram support, you can do that just in the web app, right? So um, you don't need the underlying thing to have the server push in order to make it work if you can take care of it in the web app off of your datagrams, which is like the way that my demo worked, right? It's just receiving the UDP payloads, and then it's essentially doing its own server push cache inside the app. All right. I don't know if that's gonna make BBC happy, but it might be enough for like me and Ramp, and maybe with a decent library, it would also be enough for BBC's usage. Um, if we can't get server push kind of put back in. Um, but we'll probably have to have some demos running and some actual delivery somewhere um, in order for that to be compelling enough for them to want to pick something back up. So this also ties back into the like get something deployed and then people will care. Um, Unfortunate, but yeah. Okay, I think that's it then. I think we've rambled long enough. Um, Thank you both for coming. yeah, send me that doc if you can find it.
Yeah, I'm looking now. I might have to ask Martin, um, but
Okay. Uh,
I may have also just completely invented that in my head. So
well, if you can write such a doc, that would also be great. Maybe it was just a mailing list. It might have just been a mailing list post or something.
it
I
could have
don't
been.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it might have been.
So anything like that, find the link and send it out. Was it on the quick list, you think? Or
I at this point I don't remember. It was a couple of years ago.
okay.
So
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be good
because I
to
remember it
understand.
was there. I remember discussing it in person, which means it was at least 2 years ago.
Sure.
So
Okay. Yes, it would be good to understand that. I know that I think you're right. In the threads I saw in Chromium, they turned it off because it wasn't used enough and it wasn't helpful enough when it was used. In fact, in some cases, it made things worse. Um, but in terms of multicast one-way pushing of data,
well, that's the only way.
yeah, well, it's not the only way, but it's
I mean, it's coming whether you want it or not.
yeah, I'm a little worried. We might have to have sections about how to do sort of alternatives at different bit rates also
Hmm.
in the transport layer part. Um, and that sounds like it might be tricky, but we'll see.
Well, I'm
Um,
curious to read this thing. So
right
um,
now it's just got the abstract and the rambly introduction, but it
no,
does
I
have
know that's. I mean, when or at least even if it's not in document form, a more fleshed out like description of what is intended. So
yeah, I do have I did check in what I've got. So here is the link. I think I've got it in the notes, but there's the current editor's draft. It's not very long, so you can read it quickly.
oh, cool. All right.
Um, but yeah, feedback is of course very welcome, and the repo is a very fine place to open issues or make PRs if you've got them. Um, and I guess since this is a W3C forum, is there anything web related we should talk about in here?
I don't.
Chris, here.
I don't have anything.
I don't know. It seems you're in a direction where API support may not be necessary after all. Or is that,
Yeah,
or are you thinking that's really still an open question?
I think it is an open question. There might be a need to enable or disable via either API support or browser support in terms of because like in the security considerations doc we talked about uh, recommending that enhanced privacy modes should disable this functionality so that to better prevent detection by local network administrators. Um, so the idea being that this opens up some new information leakage because of the multicast joins to the local network, right? So in the same sense that uh, enhanced privacy mode in the browser like avoids leaving breadcrumbs for local administrators to find or other users of the local computer. Um, the If you disable multicast when you're in private browsing mode, then you avoid leaving breadcrumbs for local network administrators because you're just dealing with the security unicast traffic now, and because the sort of assumption is that if someone knows what groups you're joining, then they can figure out what content you're consuming. Um, so and it doesn't do anything about the traffic analysis, but in terms of hiding your activity from local network devices and administrators, there's probably some privacy considerations there. Um, and so the browser needs to be able to disable it at least. I'm not sure if the page needs to be able to disable it to prevent use when when the page itself wants to maintain privacy mode or some such, or the opposite, right? If the page has to enable it to allow for it, right? Maybe that's the way to look at it. Um, so I probably do need a privacy consideration section in there because of the web support, and I don't think that's in there yet.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was hoping that we would get from the second screen protocol discussion, like some element of like, okay, these are the requirements that apply to that design.
Yeah, I felt like
Um,
they hadn't really had a lot of objections or thought that anybody or things that anybody raised much when we talked to them. Am I wrong about that? We don't have anybody from second screen here, but I think people said, yeah, it's an interesting question, but no, nobody's really raised that, if I remember right.
yeah, sadly I missed the meeting where that was, discussed. But
So
certainly having been involved in some of the design sessions for that, there was a lot of consideration given to what information gets exchanged between devices before the secure connection is established, and so keeping that to enough to bootstrap a connection, but not enough, not exposing anything that's unnecessary or that could be identifying towards the content that you're using.
I do think that there's still some overlap here between sort of local discovery protocols, which have some kinds of privacy considerations attached, um, and the information leakage due to multicast. So I think I do think it's right to leverage that. And I think second screen is one of them. I'm not sure it's even really the only one. Um, there's just even using MDNS names, domain names that result in local discovery leak some information in the same kind of way. So like Apple recently added some controls on that. For instance, you had to have permission. What do they call it? There's like your app has to be blessed and permitted to do this in order to be able to use that, and it has to like register what names it's going to use and explain why it needs to do local discovery. And joining a multicast had the same kind of thing attached to it. There was Tommy Polly talked about it in I think the M-Bone-D at 112 if I remember right. It might have been 111, but I think it was 112. Uh, and that might happen in the browsers too, in some sense, I guess. It seems to be like a direction um, to go to sort of address the privacy concerns for these kinds of local network issues. And I think multicast really does, like Apple got this right. It does fall in the same category of exposing some information to the local network that has some potential to be sensitive, but there are many good reasons to do it that should be permitted. Um, and so there's that balance of like uh, noticing that there's some risk with this, but then permitting it in in a sort of tracked way that allows for preventing of abuse by by block lists that the browser can maintain or some such, or some kind of benevolent authority can maintain. um, so yeah, I guess I do anticipate that being the direction to solve that kind of problem. And it seems like there's some progress happening there. And I think it's not really just specific to second screen. Like Apple is what Apple did is kind of the way to look at it. And there might be some developments along those lines. Maybe we'll have to get into those, but hopefully we can just leverage what people do there for other purposes.
Yeah, I mean, I just mentioned second screen as the one that I had some more direct involvement in, so it's the only one that I can sort of speak to, really.
Yeah. I think my strategy at this point is to come back to that after getting a little more traction at the lower layer. And I think that I think it probably will have to be addressed, but I'm hoping that I can just take what somebody else is doing. But I probably should keep an eye on second screen, and maybe there's others watching this. I don't know who to ask for. There must be a W3C kind of privacy focused group that would be keeping an eye on how all this is developing, right?
So there is there's the privacy interest group, ping, and so that's really like they're responsible for doing like privacy reviews across all W3C specifications. I guess where this gets interesting is that it's not just a browser API, it's a combination of that potentially plus the networking aspects. So I don't know how unusual that kind of thing will be for them. I assume that they've been through this kind of similar thing, like with web transport and with WebRTC and so on. So, it will be something that they'll be familiar with this kind of space. But yeah, when we get to that point, we will want to have their review, I think.
Yes, that makes good sense. Okay. So I'll add a link to that in the notes. Got kinds of great notes here. Just put a comment with the link that I just found. So, all right, cool. Anything else? Like we might need that API, and it's mostly about privacy, I think. Yeah, I think it would make sense for the page to enable it, and that would be the only API we probably need. I'm sure that will have to expand. Now that I say that, once we actually get somewhere, but uh, and that probably is just a minor extension in web transport, I would hope. Like just a permit multicast, flag that you pass into your initial web transport object or something. Um, and maybe there will be other similar things that will have to go into the, like as we get into fetch and the HTML5 download, but during the first pass, targeting web transport via quick I think it probably is just a very small extension to web transport to say permit it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I see. I see.
Does that make sense? I'm not sure. But I think saying that the page should explicitly enable it is a good control to add in. Is my guess.
And then is that something that requires a user interaction, or is it just like for the app developer, like make use of the multicast transport if the network conditions are right to support it?
Yeah, I would tend to think it's just the app developer, but the app developer might add user interactions in some cases, I would imagine. But but for the most part, I would expect the app developer can make the call. And between that and the privacy mode that the browser has, then I think that's all it needs. Assuming we succeed at making it transparent, but I think that's really plausible that it would be. I guess there might be the question of whether you enable it just for datagrams or for also server push, or whether there's like other things that might be baked in the use case layer. So there might be other APIs that have to go either into the quick library for its usage, or and then be sort of used by the browser, or all the way into like a something that the page has to express to put it in. But I would aim toward just enable or not, and maybe keep open the possibility that it would be enable or not for specific cases like server push versus datagrams, maybe as two separate enables that you do, and maybe there's another one for file download or something. I don't know. But either way, I think it will be a small extension, and it will become more clear what's necessary once we have a working prototype at the quick layer, probably. Anyway, that's just speculation, really, I think, at this point, but that's kind of the direction I'm thinking. Okay, I tried
Yeah,
to.
that makes sense. That makes sense.
All right, great. I think 20 minutes ago I said we were done, so now we'll call it for real.
All right.
Thanks for coming, guys. Really appreciate it. I hope it really helps to have this kind of sanity check on my.
No, and thank you for all the work you're putting into this.
All right.
It's good stuff.
All right, good. Thanks.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah, have a good one. Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.